Hello, good evening again. You may remember I said last time that the book of Ecclesiasticus, the book of Sirach, is in fact a work of applied theology. That is to say, it's how do you apply the law to your daily life? How do you apply God's word to what you're living through now? Chapter 3 is quite often used in church. It's used on the Feast of the Holy Family, I seem to remember. And in it, the Father is speaking. It's a little meditation on the commandment, honor your father and your mother. It's what's called, technically speaking, a midrash. That's not a skin disease. It's a rabbinical commentary or a rabbinical sermon on a piece of the law. Children, listen to me, for I am your father. Do what I tell you, and so be safe. So, just do what your father says, it'll be fine. For the Lord honors the father above his children and upholds the rights of a mother over her sons. So God has given parents authority. Whoever respects a father expiates sin. Whoever honors a mother is like someone amassing a fortune. Whoever respects a father will in turn be happy with children. The day he prays for help, he will be heard. Long life comes to anyone who honors a father. Whoever obeys the Lord makes a mother happy. Such a one serves parents as also the Lord. Respect your father in deed as in word, so a blessing may come on you from him. Now, this is an explication of what it says in the Bible. It says, honor your father and your mother, and you will live long in the land. So it's a meditation on that, live long in the land. In other words, if you look after your parents, you will be rewarded. Well, that seems perfectly straightforward. Respect your, yes, here we are. Do not make a boast of disgrace overtaking your father. Your father's disgrace reflects no honor on you. For a person's own honor derives from the respect shown to his father, and a mother held in dishonor is a reproach to her children. Now, one of the things you notice, it's not just respect the father, it's also respect the mother. Judaism is a patriarchy, but it's also a matriarchy. Respect both parents equally, and you'll be rewarded. Now it gets rather interesting. My child, support your father in his old age. Do not grieve him during his life. Even if his mind should fail, show him sympathy. Do not despise him in your health and strength. For kindness to a father will not be forgotten, but will serve as a reparation for your sins. On your own day of ordeal, God will remember you. Like frost in sunshine, your sins will melt away. Now, what happens when your father gets Alzheimer's, which is something that happens to so many of us? Most people, a lot of people, not maybe not most, but an awful lot of us have seen the sad decline of our parents and seen dementia take its hold and so on. It's awful to see. It really is a very big problem. And it happens to so many people, and it's difficult for the person with dementia, but for the person dealing with a person with dementia, how they deal with it can often leave a legacy of guilt behind. Did we do the right thing? Did we really look after our father or our mother as we should have done? Were we ungrateful? Were we lacking in compassion? Were we impatient? These are questions that should be asked. The usual question we ask is, who's going to pay for the care? That question is asked constantly. Social care, as we now call it, funding. Where's the funding going to come from? Well, okay, yes, I know that's an important question, but the really important question, or just as important, even more important, is how are you personally going to look after and cope with your failing parent? And so this now, presumably in Egypt, 200 BC, people did go senile, not on such a huge scale as is the case today, but if you read the literature of the time, even Victorian literature, and so there were always dotty old people around. So it did happen. People fell into the lethargy of old age, not quite in the same way as they do today. And here it's clear, support your father in his old age. Do not grieve him during his life. Even if his mind should fail, show him sympathy. Do not despise him in your health and strength, for kindness to a father will not be forgotten. Now you're healthy, you're strong, but one day the boot may be on the other foot. On your own day of ordeal, God will remember you. Now, this is interesting. If you look after your parents now, when you start going downhill, God will remember you. Like frost and sunshine, your sins will melt away. God will forgive you your sins if you tend to your father and mother properly. Whoever deserts a father is no better than a blasphemer, and whoever distresses a mother is accursed by the Lord. So what we have here is an exhortation to filial piety. When was the last time you had an exhortation to filial piety in church? Clearly, the author of the book of Ecclesiasticus, Jesus von Sirach, I was going to call him, Ben Sirach, thought that this needed to be said because people were neglecting their parents. We now live in an age where people do neglect their parents, I'm afraid to say. People have got lots to do, that we're busy, and we can only see our parents every now and then, and so on and so forth. Grandparents even more so. There was a time when our parents and grandparents were with us always, and we didn't have to think about, oh, I must go and see my mother, I must go and see my father. It didn't make sense. They were always there. Or I must phone them up and so on. No, you're always telling them they're always there. Filial piety is exceptionally important. We don't use this phrase filial piety, it sounds rather Chinese, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. Loving our parents, supporting our parents all their lives long is incredibly important. Right, love your neighbour. Yes, we know about that. But where does love of neighbour start? Love of neighbour starts with the people who are closest to you because they're right there. And that means looking after your parents. So important. And I think there is a great reward in doing it. There's always a great reward in knowing we're doing the right thing. And there's a great reward in doing it in the sense that we won't be burdened by guilt if we do the right thing. Now, I don't think you should do the right thing just to avoid the burden of guilt, but it's worth considering, isn't it? Avoid that burden of guilt. Be a good son or daughter to your parents. And incidentally, the author, Ben Sirach, does realize, he does seem to admit that parents can be pretty difficult. Yes, they can be difficult, but don't let that get you down. Remember, even if his mind should fail, and its other thing is, do not make a boast of disgrace overtaking your father. In other words, when your father's difficult, don't just go around and say, oh my God, my father's so difficult. And your father's disgrace reflects no honor on you. If your father's difficult, that doesn't actually make you look good, by the way. For a person's own honor derives from the respect shown to his father. Now, this is an interesting thing. It's never good when you diss, as they love to say nowadays, your own relatives. If you've got poor relatives, for example, some people do, we've all got them. You've got embarrassing relatives, and we all do. If you've got relatives that you really feel that they've rather exploited their relationship with you, don't make a thing about it. Because if you make a thing about it, you'll make yourself look bad. That's what Sirach is saying. Rather, if you've got relatives who are difficult and you show yourself tolerant of them, but the toleration comes out of love, people will respect you for that. There are one or two celebrities who've really lost respect, at least in my eyes. For example, there's at least one I can think of who dropped his own mother. It's never good to drop your own mother. It really isn't. If you're somebody rich and famous and you've got an old mother who is quite a pain in the neck, people will really think, oh, he's so good to his old mother, It's really nice, isn't it? Anyway, there you are. Let's love our relatives. Family life, so important. All the best. Bye.